Hello, good morning, and welcome. This is Sunrise. I'm Ayo Makinde. Today is the 16th day in the month of August 2025, and guess what? It's just gone past 9. There's something happening today, particularly for those of you in Anambra State and in Oyo State. Yes, by-elections. Yeah. Now, what we have come to realize, of course, you know, the PDP and the APC, they're going to be, they're in strong showing in those 3 states. It's also interesting that the ADC is also showing some showing, or working some working, or whichever one works for you. So what is important now is to call us all out. Look, as some people have said over and over again, there is no polling booth on social media. Not on X, not on Facebook, not on Instagram, not on TikTok, not on, for the old school people, MySpace. It's somewhere around you, at your wards. So please, go out there and do the needful. Because whether you like it or not, the decisions will be taken. There are decisions taken for you. Whether you agree with the decision or not depends on what you do right now. If you have not had your cup of cocoa or cocoa, do yourself a favor, have one. You can put it in a flask, go to your polling booth, and do whatever it is that you need to do right there. Because it's for all of us. The politicians will do what the politicians do. They will try to show strength and everything. But what concerns you and I, wherever we find ourselves, is how our lives are directly affected. So please, do the needful. The APC, PDP, it's immaterial. What is the material for us is that you do what you need to do. We understand that there are 2 senatorial seats at stake, 1 in Edo and 1 in Anambra, 5 House of Reps seats and 9 State Assembly seats. And then the by-elections are scheduled for Adamawa, Anambra, Edo, Jigawa, Kaduna, Kano, Kogi, Niger, Oyo, Ogun, Taraba, and Zamfara State. So please, these things are just not going to go away. We understand that in Zamfara, in Anambra State, in Adamawa State, for instance, 5 candidates are vying for the House of Assembly. In Anambra, 12 candidates are slugging it out for the Anambra South Senatorial District seat, and a number of other places like that. Edo State, 8 contestants, only one of them we're going to employ as the Edo Central Senatorial District, the senator that's going to represent our people there. So please bear those in mind, and a number of other places like that. It's interesting that ADC has come into the fray, particularly for this by-election. Same thing happened in 2023 when the Labour Party was having a strong showing. Where is Labour Party on the list now? I'm wondering. But APC and PDP seem to be still making the news. By the way, APC, PDP, did you hear that news? That one that everyone is reporting, that some Canadian court has pronounced the APC and the PDP as terrorist organizations? Go read the news. Really, is it true that that is what happened? Is that label constant? Is it something that is the real reality? That's not really what bothers me. What bothers me is that Nigeria's image as a nation is right now surreptitiously affected. What has also raised concerns for some people, we'll talk about the reputation issue later on the program this morning, but what has also come to the fray in this is allegations of likely diplomatic spats. A similar thing happened, I think it was also between is in Canada and Iran, when there was that labeling around Iran as well, and it caused some diplomatic spats between the two countries and all. How strong is this one that is making the rounds between? How strong is it diplomatically for us as a country? Is it something that should give anybody restless nights? I don't think so, because it's just an issue involving one person. And I found some dynamics in the build-up to today's program, that it should only be a cause for diplomatic concern if it was a pronouncement made by the executive arm of government in Canada, or rather from one executive arm of government to another executive arm of government. But if this gets the federal government of Nigeria to invite the Canadian High Commissioner to have conversations, then that conversation has begun. But I think one of the things that I've also found out is that the judgment isn't really in the way people are putting it. There are so many gaps in that judgment. You may want to go and read it, and thankfully with technology you should be able to analyze it without really doing much. So that is, that about that. And then there's this thing that we've been hearing all week long. Quam 1, Quam 2, Quam 3, and all. It's a little funny, because one of the things that I've seen, unfortunately in my industry, there's something that we say: bad news is good news. In other words, oh, everything is going right, it's not as much news. Okay, so there's this thing we used to say, that dog bites man is not news, but man bites dog, that is news. So it's the queer, it's the things that's not looking like it that makes news. And the question that I'm asking is, how is that a developmental issue for us? Why should we be giving so much attention to it? We understand injustice, we understand unfairness and all those things, but I would rather we focused on things that will help us to see Nigeria from a better light. And that ambassadorial tag, I'm not sure many people really read the statement of the Minister of Aviation. And I'm not also sure that we understand the context. Don't forget that there's this thing they call connotative meaning and denotative meaning. I'm not sure we all get it. But once it is sensational, we want to go with it. Sometimes it's a distraction, trust me. Sometimes it's a distraction. Some people just want to draw your attention away from the things that are making news. For instance, it's about more than 700,000 people have benefited from NEL-Fund, according to information available to us from the student loan program. More than 700,000. Who is pointing you in the direction of getting that loan? No one. But they would rather distract us from the things, from loose things. And then we also hear this thing that people get loans to do business in the country. Please, I hear the state government is, your state government is making some resources available. I hear the federal government is making some resources available. How about you go after those ones, right? And please, because those things that they're giving you, asking you to go look at, they ain't giving you shishi in your account. So please, that's what my advice this morning. Enough talk, let's get into the conversations this morning. And the first item we'll be looking at is that promise that the president made in one of his speeches, that it is possible for Nigeria to become a $1 trillion economy. So we'll have conversation this morning in pursuit of a $1 trillion economy, according to the president. The second thing, of course, that Canadian court issue. Canadian court and the terror tag. We'll have a discussion about that. We'll also have a discussion on the Junior Achievement, Nigeria's VIMP 2025. Find out more details about that. Then there's this thing that's been said about the father-daughter bond. What's that about? There are some interesting perspectives to that, so we'll get to the conversation. And this morning we have an artist of the week. Who it is, I'm going to keep in my bag in the meantime. But while we're at that, do me a favor, get your cup of cocoa. This is mine. And cocoa, if that's what you prefer. Usually cocoa cups are bigger than cocoa cups. I'll be right back in a moment. Thank you so much for staying with us. The president, President Bola Tinubu, made that commitment some time ago, talking about Nigeria becoming a $1 trillion economy, that it is possible for us to do it. I hear the possibility. In fact, I also remember the late President Buhari saying that it is possible for Nigeria to pull 100 million people, 100 million Nigerians out of poverty over 10 years. This was in 2018. This is 2023. That's about how many years now from that target, if we ever were chasing it? Maybe about 3 years from now. I'm not sure that has gotten off the ground. We tried to get the government of the day to speak to it, but not quite. The challenge is whether or not there was a plan after that statement was made. One of the things we have also found out over time is that when there is a presidential pronouncement, most of the time, there is no follow-up to it. So when President Tinubu made that pronouncement, when he made that promise, when he made that, I don't know, should I say, some kind of forecast that Nigeria has the potential to become a $1 trillion economy, the question we want to ask is, what's the plan? Well, two gentlemen joined us this morning to have this conversation about the pursuit of a $1 trillion economy in Nigeria. Dr. Ogbenga Adeoye is here. He's a chartered accountant. Thank you so much for joining us.
It's a pleasure.
Also joining us in our Abuja studio is the Special Advisor on Economic Affairs in the Office of the Vice President, Dr. Tokwe Fashua. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Fashua.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Let me ask you first, Dr. Fashua, what's the background that you can say, maybe we should ask you, first of all, what's the background to that statement about Nigeria becoming a $1 trillion economy? Was it just a pronouncement, or is there a plan towards it? Is this something that can be achieved in the life of this administration, be it just 4 years or 8 years? Is there a plan to sustain it and all those conversations?
Well, thank you very much. It wasn't a mere pronouncement. It wasn't something the president woke up one day and just decided that it was a nice thing to say. As a matter of fact, it's inside the campaign document. There's a campaign promise. So this will date back to perhaps 2022 when the campaigns were heating up and campaign documents were being put together. So, however, you know, so that's the thing. And of course, there is a plan. It's just that for people to be able to follow up on that plan is a bit difficult because there are many things that need to be done. Many of which have been done already, you know, in order to get to that point. Now, the other thing I'll quickly tell you, before looking at those things that have been done, which are likely to power the economy up to let's say, first of all, we need to have a double-digit growth. You know, the president also, in the campaigns and part of the campaign document, what we promised was double-digit growth. However, you know, they say you campaign in poetry, you govern in prose. Yeah, according to one of the former mayors of New York. So the thing is, when you now get to government, of course, there are a few realities that you need to clear. And I think the president has been very astute in doing the right thing, which are the you know, the reforms that have been done. You know, so first of all, the thing I need to let you know is if we say we want to achieve a 1 trillion economy as an aspiration, what we're saying is, in essence, that look, we're going to challenge ourselves to do the right thing and to get the economy growing at a faster clip, with a lot more productivity on the part of everybody, every individual, every household, every company, you know, in Nigeria, and even at the public sector level. If we are able to achieve 700 out of 1 trillion, I think that's a pass mark. Even if what we do was $600 billion out of that, it is a pass mark. Now, so let's understand that look, it's just like budgeting and planning. When you plan, you needn't achieve 100% of your plan, but you challenge yourself by setting very high standards and very high, you know, limits. And then, like they say, and like I always try to repeat, you know, they say those who aim for the skies may sometimes find themselves among the stars. If you don't aim, you're never going to achieve. What many people unfortunately do these days is they are unable to imagine a new Nigeria, unable to imagine a Nigeria that works. And all of the rhetoric and narrative that they are pushing is all about, you know, that same mediocrity, where we're coming from. We can't get past that. And I keep telling them Nigeria will change and advance even in spite of Nigerians and in spite of our cynicism. I mean, just yesterday, inflation went down to 21.8% from 22.22%. The aim is to get to 15%. Perhaps we could even do more. The reason why we're not, you know, moving faster is partly cultural. The fact that, and of course, partly because the economy at the stage of development that we are, a lot of people have taken advantage of. It's a seller's market, especially, you know, in terms of food, in terms of the things that really, really matter to people, the basic items. You know, people have dictated the price. People have tried to take advantage and make billions and so on. But, you know, even in spite of them, at some point in time, inflation will slow down. So Mr. President has done some of the critical reforms that most other governments in this country have not been able to do. Reforms around petroleum. You can see a new economy is created around petroleum sector in this country. A new sector, almost a new sector. Nigeria becoming a net exporter of refined, and a net, at some point, a net importer of crude. It's unbelievable the way things have totally turned around. But that's petroleum sector. New players there, new oil servicing companies, Nigerian companies taking over, Nigerian indigenous companies producing 50% of our crude oil. And of course, now we're getting to 1.8 million barrels a day, including condensates. By the end of the year, we hope to get to 2 million. That's petroleum sector. You can see the reforms around the Naira, stability in the Naira. You know, a lot of shenanigans that used to be played around the Naira. The arbitrage has disappeared. The arbitrage that was up as much as 50% at some point, when people can get money from central bank and so on.
Dr. Fashaw,
that has disappeared.
All of that is well understood.
Let me land on this, Ayo, if you don't mind. Let me land on this. Okay, so you can see the tectonic changes that have happened in the economy. That look, you know, so what see, like they say about the bamboo tree, the Chinese bamboo tree. Sometimes you plant and for 5 years you are watering this bamboo tree and you think that nothing is going to happen, and then boom, and every day is growing by 5 meters in a day. So I think that's what we're doing. I mentioned those two key reforms. There's a tax reform that's kicking in 2026 January. There's also even recent statement by, you know, a decision of the Federal Executive Council and of course the National Economic Council around, you know, taking development to the rural areas, a word-based development system that's going to touch at least 20 million people in this economy. So you see, so the thing is this: if you want to be strategic, when you take over a government such as this in an economy that has so much latitude for growth and for change, you have to do the right thing by setting the standards and then watching it grow. So like the bamboo tree, I believe that the Nigerian economy is going to grow at double digits at some point in time. Let's look at what happens in 2026 with the right attitude from Nigerians. And some of us are here to ensure we counter.
There are a number of things. Thank you, Dr. Fashaw. I mean, there are some things we cannot. There are some things we cannot really legislate. Let me ask you, Dr. Adeoye. There are economists such as yourself who have said that this is just an ambition of the federal government. Right now, according to information available even from the presidency, based on the rebasing of Nigeria's economy, we are valued something in the region of $243.55 billion. We're targeting $1 trillion. Is it just a pipe dream?
Okay. When you talk about a $1 trillion economy, about 2-3 years ago, I was in Dallas, and then I had a discussion with a senior friend, a medical doctor, and then he said the only way forward for Nigeria is for them to open the economy. And then I began to do a research, and in my research, I came up with about 9 strategies to have a robust economy. And I target P septics. P and then hyphen septics. The first thing that you must address is not just, you can have a projection and say this is where I'm going, but actually the focus should be on this strategy that I want to mention. Number 1, the P there talks about power, electricity. Every other thing you say about development without addressing power becomes a mere statement. And I can tell you, the cost of power from the grid is about 25% of what it would be if you have to buy diesel to power it. So that's P number 1. The septics, S there, is security. If you don't have security, you cannot do anything. In fact, the people, I recall I was a debt recovery agent for a commercial bank in Nigeria. About a few years ago, there are certain states in the country we couldn't go. I'm a Nigerian. I couldn't fly to some states at that time. The same way it will apply to a foreign investor who feels, I'm not going to go to that place. So our attention should focus on those variables. 1, power. 2nd, security. The E there is exchange rate. Now, whether we argue from today till tomorrow, and don't forget, Tope Fashua is a friend, and he has spoken as a marketer, and I give it to him, the way he has spoken. He's part of government. Some of us are outside government, but indirectly we're also part of government, and so we need to just advise on the way forward. Exchange rate is a factor that determines who you are as a country and how your country is. Now, if a country has the dollar exchanging at 2,000 or 1.5 in his own country, you will not compare with another country that's exchanging at 3 or 10 or 7 like China. And I'll give you a practical example. In 2022, there was an investment program I was involved in as a consultant. And then the entire transaction was $300,000. And then everybody felt, okay, Nigerians can do this. And it came, around that time, it was between $495 to a maximum of $500 at the black market, which means 150 million naira was to solve that problem. As of today, looking at 1,500 exchange rate is going to cost 450 million from 150. Now, if you look at that alone, if those investors do not have increase in their naira revenue, there's no way they can raise that 450. So that's address. I've talked about the first P, power. S, security. E, exchange rate. The fourth one is political stability. And that's where I quarrel with people talking around more like you want to remove the government in power. You know, the kind of speech you hear, oh, we are not happy with this. You cannot remove a democratically elected government through other means other than the same process. And so when you have a political stability in your country, then you will have growth. So part of what government must do is to ensure we have a political system that allows continuity, and then you are able to hand over to another government. Now, after that, I said perceptics. So the T there address tax policy. I'm glad with what our daily team has done. Some of us at the background, we were part of it. But again, the exercise will be in futility if they do not quickly call state government to order. As early as yesterday, I still got a call from a client who said, some guys are here talking about consumption tax. The right thing for state government to do immediately is to have repealed the consumption tax laws, because it amounts to double taxation when you pay value-added tax. And don't forget, we have given extra 5% to state government in exchange for that removal or repealing of those laws. So we need to now look at the federating unit, not focusing on the federal government alone. So you have the state government not willing or deliberately not acting as they ought to act. And this is a time to call all the House of Assemblies and the governors in Nigeria to order. Stop all this moving around with consumption tax demand. We've given you extra 5%. Since Tinubu came to power, the sharing was about 600 billion before. Since he got to power, it has been above 1 trillion. So you have increase in revenue, so you must not then become a problem to the citizens that are investing. And like my pastor will say, you cannot build your joy on another man's sorrow and expect that joy to last. The people, they will rebel against it. So you cannot then begin to do things that undermine what the president is doing. So I've spoken about that. Tax policy, the idea is interest rate. The July meeting set MPR at 27.5. And then you have the cash reserve ratio at 50%. You have liquidity ratio at 30%. And then you have the asymmetric band at plus 500 points and then minus 100 points. That look like economic jargons to those who don't understand monetary policy. There is no way you can lend to anybody in your country at 35, 40%, 50% in some cases, and expect that economy to grow. Among the citizens that are investing, they will not want to invest. Only foreigners who have foreign funds will be able to come. And let me give you an example. If you have a one-year moratorium and you are giving 100 million naira to do business, let's say pure working capital, and then you are paying about 50% interest at the end of the year, you must make profit above 50% for you to be able to pay. Now, how are you going to achieve that? If you make less than 50%, it means you will be draining your capital. So we need to look at interest rate critically. Of course, there is an argument that, oh, inflation is at 24.5, and so government is putting interest rate above it so that people can bring money. What you are encouraging is for people to be idle and say, look, I better not invest in production. I better not invest in creating jobs. Let me just put my money in the bank so I can get 20 or 20-something%. And that's what is happening to a lot of big guys in Nigeria. Mention among the politicians, mention maybe 10 of them, from the National Assembly to governors that have factories that employ 1,500, 100 people in Nigeria. And the reason is not far-fetched. It's simply because it pays you better to put your money in the bank. So government need to look at interest rate as a matter of urgency. So I said P-septics. C is corruption. Corruption is what has led us to where we are from 1960. It's not as if government is not doing anything. It's not as if government is not planning to do road. It's not as if they are not building hospital. But all of us that are in private sector, go and check the cost of building your house. I don't know where your house is, but averagely, if you spend 100 million to build your house, if government want to build that type of house, it's going to be close to 1 billion. So it's a problem, and it has become like a normal trend. So government needs to do that. Before you do any project, get private sector to give you an idea. If we are doing this, this is what the cost is going to be. Now, the S there is the social system in the country. I bet you where people are not happy, there is no party happening, no event, there is what we call bulk consumption. Everything about the economy is about consumption. In fact, we have a Yoruba proverb that says, "Ẹni tó ń jẹ sàárà lọ̀gá ẹni tó ń sè." It means that the consumer is the master of the producer. In fact, your production is anchored on consumption, because if there is no demand, there's not going to be supply. So the social system, people must be able to say, what we do in Africa, like we do Ashwebi, we do party here and there, birthday. In fact, I have people who want to, do remembrance, social activity. There must not be restriction of movement of people, people gathering together.
But at the end of the day, all of those things, I'm actually, glad that, this is your septic. Let me first of all ask, Dr. Fashua.
And my septic has a copyright. Anybody who copy it,
Dr. Fashua, I know that you heard him, and I know you were listening to a bit of the things that he said. But what are your thoughts on that strategy? Particularly because I know it would seem like some of them sound a little disjointed, while some things that the federal government can do. He's spoken, for instance, about the role or the partnership or synergy of the federal government with the states, or the state governments with the federal government. I've asked that question severally. It would seem like the president, the presidency, the federal government, the executive arm of the federal government in particular, is dancing solo, dancing a solo ballet. No one else is dancing with you. If the state governments are not cooperating, if the state governments are not aligning with the issues that the federal government is raising, then how do we go from here? It raises the question of communication or collaboration, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah. Well, thank you very much. The Taiwo Committee, of which I'm part as well, we also incorporated the opinions of the states, but there are also state-level laws that need to be worked on in order for everything to align. And I think that is the next level now, as things stand. And, of course, the gentleman, Dr. Adeoye, made a very, very germane point regarding the fact that a lot of the states are getting ×3 in Naira what they used to get. And of course, we're spending Naira, spending locally. There are advantages that we get. So nobody should run around and say, oh, the money in dollar terms is a lot less. We know it's a lot less in dollar terms. But look, we're talking about you paying your staff, the teachers that work at the state level, doing local infrastructure, which many of the states have started to do. So it's not everything about dollar and all of that, So, yeah, it's time for them to kick in. In fact, yes, like Dr. Adeoye said, I also was in Lagos, and I was in a restaurant where they also took consumption tax. And I was wondering, what's the point of taking consumption tax? And I was telling my colleague that we went there together, I said, I don't think this money will be remitted at that level. I mean, it just opens up customers and individuals to further taxation, double taxation, and all of that. So I actually do agree with most of what Dr. Adeoye has said. Of course, infrastructure, electricity, key, germane. But however, the play is no longer about diesel versus greed. The play is now about alternative energy versus grid. And I've been reading many articles where many big companies have started to move away from the grid into alternative energy. It's looking like, look, alternative is the future. And of course, my thought would be that at some level, government will also come out with a strategy on alternative energy, which we would add to what is done by the grid, and we'll move away from this rhetoric of 5,800 megawatts, 6,000 megawatts, and so on. We should be able to post 20, 30,000 megawatts in a short while. So I agree with that. I disagree with him on the exchange rate. What he described was a scenario where the exchange rate shifted on a transaction. However, in a country like, if I remember, maybe Indonesia, they're doing like 21,000 to the dollar, and of course, it's a much larger economy. It's $1 trillion economy. They're doing better than we are doing in Nigeria and so on. And you see, the issue is a relativity. So really, the truth is that if you look at the current scenario on exchange rate with Nigeria now, it's encouraging a lot of local production and local effort if you look at the three of us speaking on this program now, we're wearing native products and so on that were sewn in Nigeria, even if the materials were not made in Nigeria, the caps we are wearing are made in Nigeria. People are looking, in fact, Nigerian fashion among the young people, this local trouser that they wear now, made in with Asho Ufi and Co, it has gone international. You know, because there's that advantage. Of course, I keep talking about the cocoa play. You know, something great is happening in Nigeria. And Nigerian cocoa, you know, farmers and, of course, middlemen inclusive. And so we're able to make ×4 what they made from 2023 to 2024 because, of course, the price of cocoa went up ×2, ×3. But, of course, production also went up.
Dr. Fashaw, I hear you loud and clear, but if I could just a second, I'm coming somewhere, and I'd like you to speak to it. Look, Dr. Adeoye praised you for doing a wonderful marketing job. But I think, you know, one thing that people want to hear is, just a second, how does this translate into the living standards of the people on a sustainable basis? The former Minister of Finance had that conversation with the president and came out and said, look, we need to build safety. Oh, praise the president for the fantastic job he's doing. But the reforms are biting. It's like someone who had, you know, an open wound and the person goes into surgery. It's going to be painful. But at the time that pain, that the fellow is suffering that pain, what's the respite the person can get while the healing is on? That, I think, is what is important here. Everybody wants what the president is talking about, a $1 trillion economy. That's not to say that all of the corruption issues are dealt with and all. What are the things that Nigeria must do to, on a sustainable basis, because I don't think it is possible for this government to achieve, just a second, for this government to achieve that $1 trillion economy, but the government can set the path for everyone else to follow.
We'll give it a
what
shot.
What must happen on a sustainable basis? It cannot only be the federal government. The states have to play a role. What must happen for Nigeria to get to that place?
Ayo, that's all we're talking about here. Even though, let's not detract from the subject of the day, which is about the 1 trillion. Of course, the issue of trickle down is a clear and present issue. And again, what was I was talking about cocoa farmers. They're farmers, they're Nigerians, they live in the rural areas, they made good money, and they're going to make even more money this year than they did last year. We're looking at 500,000 metric tons this year. You know, they're farmers. For those who have left those rural areas and headed for Lagos because they believe that there's more money in Lagos, there's urban poverty that's dealing with people. And of course, those are the people on social media who can make those, comments that things are totally bad. It's not totally bad for everybody. People are doing cashew, people are doing sesame, people are doing hibiscus, people are doing a lot at the rural level. So part of what, in order to answer your question, the key thing that must be done has been done in terms of the key policies, including the tax policy that actually excludes those who are earning the least in Nigeria, including businesses that are doing turnovers of 4 million per month and below from taxes. I think that the federal government has done a number of things. Of course, remember that, look, you're not going to be able to do 100% of what needs to be done. That's not governance. I mentioned earlier on, you campaign in prose, you campaign in poetry, you govern in prose. You know, so you're not going to be able to do everything. Let me tell you, if we're talking about increasing GDP and all of that, down to the production function and the fact that, look, you know, what are the things that creates productivity? I mean, I wrote an article in Premium Times recently, and also I think the Cable, let's have a rethink about what they call the factors of production, the so-called land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship. Let's extend it and begin to think of it. What about information, data, technology, knowledge? Even artificial intelligence, even time. Those are also factors that we need to consider that can actually push people forward. And I have also told you some of the things that the government is even taking to the rural level, to the world level, to say, look, how can we cause that productivity to come up from the ground up in a way that will be tectonic, that will be, like the so-called Albert Einstein's E is equal to MC squared. You know, in that kind of manner that will actually boom the economy, and that's why we're here.
Okay.
So there's a discussion about whether it's trickling down. a lot of the trickle down, even I mentioned, I've been on your show, I think maybe another host, talking about infrastructure and the impact on multidimensional poverty. If multidimensional poverty is described as, a people's, how close a people are to infrastructure, basic infrastructure like roads, like schools, like health centers, and, we keep spending on this every year, creating new roads, patching up old roads, new primary health care centers and so on, but we seem not to be measuring. So let me land on this, that I think that one of the critical issues we have is a data problem. That we're not actually capturing our data properly to say that, look, this is what we have been able to achieve. And I've actually proposed that we need to look, this is what we have been able to achieve. And I've actually proposed that we need to relaunch a poverty eradication, targeted poverty eradication program that will clearly measure and say this number of people have been taken away from poverty as a result of the interventions of government, as a result of the creation of infrastructure, as a result of the efforts, beyond just going to give them money. Because again, the World Bank, IMF will say, we need to give cash handouts to people, which is okay. For
one would be asking the question, Dr. Fashua, who is supposed to gather that data, if not the federal government itself? If you get my point, this data should come from the institutions of government. This should come from the statistician general. Just yesterday, we had a conversation with the CEO of NELFON. He gave us real data of persons and money. So it is the agencies of government, be it federal or state, that are supposed to come up with this data. But we'll come back to that one. One of the things that I want to ask you, Dr. I'm coming back to you, Dr. Fasha. I'm coming back to you, Dr. Fasha. I'll come back to you. One of the issues that I want you to respond to now is, perhaps the federal government has some distractions that I'd like you to speak to. What are the things that are likely to, that are in the way, not likely, that are hindering the expeditious progress of Nigeria towards this $1 trillion economy? Nigeria is growing now at X% according to federal government data, but we must grow at certain double digits level if we are going to get to this $1 trillion economy within a particular time. What, in your opinion, are the distractions of government? What are the challenges that government may be unwilling to speak to? And how significant is this federal states dichotomy, if there is such a thing?
So let me speak first about the distraction. Mr. President needs to act speedily on certain things. Security being tackled by sending soldiers, we call it kinetic operation. It's not the only way. Who are the people behind it? Because if people hear, oh, bomb blast in Sokoto, 20 people kidnapped in Benue, villages destroyed, people get scared. In fact, when we go out of the country, people look at us and say, oh, your skin is intact. They think they've killed all of us in the country. So, and that's very bad. Like you said, bad news, travel fast. Just pockets of problems here and there. If I were to be the president, you need to identify the politicians that are behind these killings, kidnapping, security crisis, and deal with them appropriately without having any sacred cow. That's point number one. Number two is that the government needs to declare a state of emergency on certain infrastructure, that are complementary. Take, for instance, transportation. You cannot travel from Shagamu to Ijebu-Ode in the night. The potholes on that road, they're terrible. That's my state. So, and I used to say...
we understand that the roads are already being repaired.
Yes, I mean, maybe because we are making noise here and there. And I used to say that the president cannot do everything. The volume of money going to state government since 2023 that he came on board is enormous. What are they doing with it? So we need to develop a kind of policy that is not just about doing budget. We need to formulate policy and say, these are the things that you have to do. And so budget must go along that line. Not state government coming up with projects that suit them that we allow for leakages. We must be able to say, for example, in my state, we have 20 local governments. We must be able to say healthcare system in all the local government, primary healthcare center. Yes, federal government play a part. We look at transportation. What is wrong in having a rail line, apart from the federal one, connecting the local governments together? These things are not rocket science. And if you go to Ethiopia, you go to China, you go to other places, you see that we can actually afford some of these things at state level. So the state government need to be directed what they need to do.
Can I ask a question? My apologies. Can I ask a quick question on that state government thing? There's this thing this multilateral organization does, the AFDB, particularly concerning this Special Agro-Industrial Processing Zones project. Now, it's some kind of conditional disbursement that if you don't, you only get paid for every milestone. Or you've bought the table, okay, get the money for the next one. Or you bought the chair, oh, get the money for the next one. Do you think it is something that the Federation can agree to, particularly for the states?
Oh, of course.
Do you think that will ever...
It's not only to agree on paper, to have task force monitoring that the right thing is done. And thank God for social media. So you can say, oh, we have disbursed X amount to so states. What have they been able to do? And then nothing is happening. And this project is not moving forward because the AFDB, they are not bringing funds because you have not done what you promised to do. So the federal government, as the father of the state, let me put it that way, need to monitor the children and ensure they are not misbehaving, because there's a lot of misbehavior across the country. So, but citizens carry all the blame on the president, whereas the government that is closer to you, they are the people to be blamed.
Okay. Well, this message is from Festus Akinwe, who says it's doable for Nigeria to achieve $1 trillion economy, but it's not going to be easy. We need constant electricity, change our youths in productive activities, security, double-digit growth in our GDP, ongoing reforms and resilience to achieve this monumental goal. Tola seems to agree and says 9 items needed for functioning world-level development. Office of the Citizens, water treatment and supply, primary and secondary schools, primary healthcare center, public housing, electricity, police station, library, polling station, a park garden, and so on. You know, Dr. Fasha, I see that these issues are all on what one can call the concurrent lists, not the exclusive list. It's something that every state government ought to be able to do. I still go back, and forgive me for doing that, to the issue of whether or not something that Dr. Ade also said now, do you think it's advisable to have some kind of monitoring system to put the feet of the state governments to the fire, that you only get disbursements for every milestone you achieve in your state? Do you think it is something that can be considered as a nation, not just at the federal level, but as a federation?
Well, you'll have to change major laws to achieve that. Maybe there are some kind of funds that you can use that kind of idea for, but for general funds that are constitutionally established, they will come after the federal government because they will talk about separation of power. We live in a federation. Some of the states already complain so much about federal government interference. They want to have their... And of course, remember that not all the states are APC states. Some of the states are opposition states as well, who just want their money and they don't want you to pry. However, this is where the the media comes in, including social media, including CSOs and all these kind of organizations like yours. So in building a country, it's not only government people that build a country, it's everybody and every opinion that builds a country. You know, when the media takes pot shots at government and says things that are not very palatable to government, it's all part of nation building. It also puts the government on edge and, you know, allows us to take the best decisions at every point in time. But I'll quickly say, the last discussion we had, we're talking about data, and I want to disabuse your mind that data is, like I said, data is the new money, the new crude oil, the new everything. Nigeria hasn't taken data serious that much. Data is not just a government thing. It's not what data is not just what government does. It's like, you know, Channels is a data company. Ayo is a data accumulator, data provider as well. So the more we take data serious, we don't. Right now, we seem to be buying even our data, our own data. We buy from abroad. We pay top money. So we need to have that immense data focus. Let's not assume that everything the MBS does, oh, they've done it all. There's nothing that can be done. We can interact with the MBS. They brought out the rebasing of the economy a couple of weeks back. You know, we can continue to interact with them to provide more insight for them and say, have you looked at this? Have you looked at that? In order to have a better, you know, data, product or outcome. And I would say that, look, what I'm also saying is that we in government are more data focused. You're going to be seeing a lot more innovation around the data space. You know, again, so back to the issue of productivity, like I said before, please, if we want to grow productivity, let everybody has to be on point, you know, not only what the government will do, but beyond the issue of combining land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship, which is an 1800 definition in the time of Adam Smith and David Ricardo and all of those people. Now we're looking at what can we do with you can generate money just by using data, by manipulating data, by having the right information, because productivity is about how much money you're able to generate. The GDP of a country is the goods and the value in naira or in dollar of the goods and services produced in that country in a given year. So everybody must be on point. But again, you know, we have a huge informal economy. It's still huge. A black economy where nobody knows what's going on in there. All of that must be captured in order for us to realize the real economy.
All right, Dr. Fasha, I want to ask you. I want to ask you one question as we wind down on this conversation. And please, I'm not trying to trap. You are an economist and you've done this for years. Realistically speaking, speak as someone who, well, in government, but someone who wants to instill some confidence. How long do you think Nigeria, it can take Nigeria to achieve this wonderful $1 trillion economy? And what are the conditions that need to be met very, very urgently for us to be able to achieve that?
Okay, well, I'd say that, so I'll take on board some of what Dr. Adey has said. Most of what he has said are valid issues, corruption and all of that, you know. Even though when I talk about corruption, I remember a man called one of the mayors of New York in the 1800s, and that a very corrupt guy, you know, I think is I forget his name now, you know, but he was a very corrupt person, but he was the one that did most of the deals for some of those bridges in New York, and also the creation of what's called Manhattan today, those skyscrapers and so on. So we know what all the issues are. If you ask me about the timing, we have set a 2030 timeline on it. How far can we go? You know, if most people cooperate and we can put in some positivism in this economy, you know, in order to get to that point between now and 2030, we're talking about 30% growth year on year. Okay, so that's a bit of a stretch. You know, maybe in order to, if you're looking at 1 trillion, maybe we'd set maybe 2033, 2035, thereabout, of positive growth. You know, and of course, a good transitioning from one government to the other.
You've given me the answer that I want, Dr. Fasha, because I'm out of time already. Dr. Adey, do you agree?
Yes.
Do you see that being possible?
Well, it's possible, but the caution should be, let the growth not be among the 5% big entities. Otherwise, you won't have the effect down the line.
The trickle-down effect that you spoke about earlier.
Yes, so the growth has to be that all the MSME, small and medium-scale enterprises, individuals who are involved in business, they are able to grow and become part of this $1 trillion economy.
Thank you so much for your time this morning. Dr. Olugbenga Adeoye is a chartered accountant and economist. We also have had Dr. Tope Fasha, who is Special Advisor on Economic Affairs in the Office of the Vice President. Thank you so much for your time this morning, gentlemen. Now, when we return, we want to talk about the Canadian court and the terror tag. Do stay with us. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for staying with us. Now, let's put this issue to rest once and for all. Over the past few days, reports have circulated that a Canadian court has declared Nigeria's two major political parties, the PDP and the APC, terrorist organizations. Naturally, this has caused a stir, both here at home and among Nigerians abroad. But when you look closely at the actual judgment, the picture is not as sensational as the headline suggests. Let's get some background. The case in question involves one Nigerian, just one Nigerian, who sought asylum in Canada. In his application, he admitted being a member of the PDP from 1999 to 2007, and then of the APC from 2007 to 2017. Now, the Canadian tribunal and later the federal court found that the PDP, particularly around 2003-2004 elections, engaged in acts of political violence and subversion of democracy. And on that basis alone, his PDP membership was enough to render him inadmissible to Canada. The APC was mentioned, but not substantively ruled on. And in fact, and this is where it gets a little dicey, the applicant's claim to have joined APC in 2007 doesn't seem to line up historically, because APC didn't exist until 2013. So what we have is a case-specific immigration ruling, not a blanket terrorist designation. Yet, the way this has been reported raises serious questions. Now the question is, how should Nigerians interpret this judgment? How are Nigerians interpreting this judgment? What's the impact of this pronouncement, particularly the reportage, on Nigeria's integrity, Nigeria's image, Nigeria's reputation? And lastly, does this have any chance, even remotely, of causing any diplomatic spats between Canada and Nigeria? Well, two gentlemen are with us this morning to have this discussion. Honorable Adebayo Shikomaya is Principal Partner, Valiant and Valor. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
We also have Dr. Okey Ikechukwu, who is Executive Director, Development Specs Academy. He joins us virtually this morning. Good morning, Dr. Ikechukwu, and thanks for joining us today.
Very much.
Yeah. Let me begin with you, Honorable. When you heard this news, as a lawyer, how did this come across to you?
Quite shocking. The judgment is extremely biased. The last time I checked, APC has over 30 million membership, and the PDP also claims to have something close to that. And you know what it takes to describe a group having such large followership as a terrorist group? It's alarming, and it will not stand on any principle of law. The guiding factors are that the action of a group can affect one individual, but not in instances as this. For a political party that is recognized constitutionally, for a party that is guided by electoral laws and has been in government for over 8 years, PDP, at least we all know facts that since we returned to democracy in 1999, it's either been PDP or APC at the national level. Both parties also had over 17 million votes at the last election. How do you describe such a gathering of people as terrorists? How do you use... The fact is also that when you single it out to Mr. Douglas, who is the main person involved in this right now, is he culpable? Why should the fact that I've agreed to join a political party to be involved in bringing a democratic party in my country, why should I be classified as being a terrorist? It doesn't go down well. It defies all principle. And you know that by our own constitutional provision, it's not just about being heard. It's about having fair hearing. Is there any record that shows that Mr. Douglas actually participated in terrorist action?
But by the law that the judge used,
yes,
mere description of the
Yes.
activity
Yes.
is already a classification in that law. And it was that law that the judge used, the basis of upon
What
which
is the basis for referring to APC and PDP as terrorist group? What exactly would be the justifiable reason to classify them as terrorist group?
Interestingly, I'm the one asking the question.
Exactly. So let me. Okay.
Dr. Kechuku, I'll ask you the same question, but perhaps from a different perspective. You've been working with a group of other eminent Nigerians on the reputation of Nigeria. So this labeling, did it ruffle you in any way, manner, shape, or form?
The first point to make is that is speaking from the platform of the Nigeria Reputation Management Group, which is a private, which is not a government platform, is the NIPR working with professionals. The first point you note is that Nigeria is a sovereign state entitled to its own reputation, and therefore that reputation may not be impugned and left unchallenged. We'll come to the legal issues slightly shortly. So I believe before we go into technicalities, I believe, yes, the External Affairs, the Foreign Affairs Ministry has made a release. I believe that the Canadian ambassador should be invited and the matter placed on the table, because this is frivolous communication, notwithstanding the facts behind it. It must be on record, because in international politics, if you do not say, here I am, nobody's going to say, there you are. This is an opportunity for Nigeria to say, yes, we have what one of your judges said. I believe language is important. I believe you know that we are not Canadians. And you're talking about a sitting government among the rest of it. Now, let's go to the issue of the basis for that decision.
Just a second, Dr. Kechu, before we go there. One of the things that I discovered in my preparation for this discussion is that it's only the executive arm of government in Canada that can make a statement that would really impugn on the integrity of any other nation, that this was just a ruling from a judicial arm of government and not the prime minister, not the executive arm of government, and that inviting the ambassador or high commissioner of Canada is what is going to make it a diplomatic issue.
My dear brother, my take is that you'd make it a diplomatic issue even if it's not. The trouble America is making all over the world, determining what your government should do or not do, is it diplomatic? Recall that in 1976, the American Secretary of State was not allowed to land here by the Murtala government. Remember the speech? Africa has come of age. People wake up, express an opinion. When you blow it, quote and unquote, out of proportion, it compels greater attention. It makes people realize that before anybody says anything about you, he will know that you're paying attention. Ayo, if today somebody goes to the village square and says that, look, just a small boy from one family goes to the village square and says, oh, members of your family eat soup without warming it, even when the soup is sour. Somebody can say, oh, but it doesn't matter, it's just a little boy. No, don't let that stick. Take it very seriously, and people will be very careful about that. That's the angle. That's where I'm bringing that into. Now, coming to the matter of the law, the Canadian rules, we must admit that based on the criteria spelled out by the judge, that if an organization uses violence, does this and that, then it can be classified as a terrorist organization. In principle, that is correct. But you see, beyond the matter of being a judge sitting on a seat, there's what you call perception of the implications of the environment. If you say you cannot find another choice of words, I'll disagree with you. But to describe substantive parties, okay, today we say that, is it Hamas? Some of those who are dominant in some parts of the Middle East are terrorist organizations and they're running governments. So where is the kinetic arms, the bombing and the confusion arising from PDP and APC, which are classified as terrorist organizations? Where have they all bombed up? Would Nigeria still be in existence? So let us take the matter, because when at an RMG, the Reputation Management Group, the issue for us is that the reputation of the nation is not about whether you like any government or not. It's not the government that is harassed when you go to the airport and they ask you to stand aside beside you because of your green passport. It is us. And therefore, the matter has to be taken with extreme seriousness to compel attention, to compel reconsideration, to all sorts that even the matter, yes, you've made the point. It's not the Canadian state that said this, but I ask, is the judge a citizen of Canada? Is he part of an arm of government? Is his statement deemed to have weight in the public domain, in legal circles, and in general global consciousness? The answer is yes. And you know how the West operates. First, they say we are very corrupt. Second, they say our democracy is terrible. Third, this casual statement somewhere, somebody will take it and say, yes, in addition to, they say the Nigerian political parties are terrorist organizations. Remember the global prediction that Nigeria was going to collapse in 25 years, how many years ago? Everybody's talking about, but people don't know the origin. It was the work of a master's degree student who, in his research, it's just like you making a comment that, oh, the River Niger might overflow in the next 5 years and flush out the part of Anambra State. And somebody goes in. That's the way international communication regarding African states and African issues operate. So if they say you have a headache, please, you must go and say that you just got a good health check, because your headache, when they interpret it, it will turn to cancer and several other diseases. So back to the substantive issues I want to place on the table in this regard. Nigeria's protest should go beyond the letter from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Let it be Canada, that Canada that will say, oh, you know, you're overreacting, but they will never forget you overreacted, so they'll be careful with you. The second point is that the legal issues, as explained by the judge, makes a lot of sense in Canadian law. That if you operate by this method, then you can be called a terrorist organization. But the law will then imply, because when you say, okay, if you use violence, question, what scope of violence, among other things. But the other point to note also is that it lies with us. Canada, the judge wouldn't have said that if he didn't notice something. Whether he understood it or not does not matter. And that's why for us at NRMG, the issue is that Nigeria is a petition. The primary casualty is you and I. Therefore, the primary concern will be to get everybody involved. And that's why the media needs to re-educate itself. All of us are in the media. What is it to project as good news, as headline news? Anything bad going on in our country.
Okay.
And that's what is. So we are supplying negative data to the international community. They use this to stigmatize us, and we say it's the work of the devil. It isn't. We took the job from the devil, and the poor guy is jobless on this matter as far as
but you know, Dr. Kechu, that issue, that the one that you just raised now, I'll come back to you on it, because it borders on trust, a lot of it, but we'll come back to that. You know, Honorable, as you said, this issue arose because of one Nigerian. Definitely. One Nigerian. It also begs the question of perhaps our attitude as a people. How we do what we do where we go. What would inform, for instance, a Nigerian going to seek asylum elsewhere? You know, I mean, as you said, if about 30 million Nigerians are members of the PDP, why would he now single himself out and go elsewhere and put Nigerians? Do you think he considered the possibility of this case going this far in the life of a country?
I'm confident he never thought it would go like this. I'm definitely sure about that. He simply just made full disclosure about his political antecedent, where he's coming from and where he is as of today. But what begs for answer is the fact that what did the judge rely on to classify both parties as terrorist group? Would it not be what Nigerians also put on social media? Would it not be the way we portray our country? You go elsewhere around the world, every time I'm in the US, the CNN I watch is different from CNN worldwide that everybody watches. If you have the opportunity to watch it, you see that all around the time, crime is reported. But that's not what is portrayed to the whole world. But in our own case, Nigerians are so quick to put everything on social media, whether it's verified or unverified. And I can definitely tell you that those sources, those kind of information, whether verified or unverified, are the things that would form this decision that has been taken by this judge that has come to affect you and I. And like Doctor has said, it is not so much about, yes, Nigeria, it affects Nigeria, it affects the reputation or the reputation of Nigeria, but it is about you and I. We are the ones who get harassed when we carry the green passport. We are the ones who are looked down on any time we find ourselves outside of the country.
If you were to make a case, say, okay, we're going to take this call, Nigeria should take this issue to maybe the international courts, at The Hague, or as Dr. Ikechukwu is talking about the diplomatic end. If you had to propose in the remotest way that this case should go the whole hog, what would be your recommendations? Do you think it's gotten to that point?
It has really gotten to that point. We're talking about the reputation of the government. It's not about who is in government right now, whether it's APC or PDP. I just tried to, though unverified, I tried to reel to you the number of people who constitute party membership. Are you telling me now that if both parties claim that they have 30 million, and 30 million people making that kind of application, you refer to them as
but doesn't that also question, the case is clear. Yeah. I think in the build-up to the 2003 election and the build-up to the 2007 elections, the story is all over the place about our attitude as a people. And some of those activities haven't really abated. Just I think about 2015 or so, we still had cases where, the electoral process didn't quite go the way we want. It begs the question of whether or not the political class is conscious of the import of their activities on the image of Nigeria.
Ayo, we're not where we want to be. It's a work in progress, but it is not enough to castigate Nigerians being who we are.
Okay. Dr. Ikechukwu, the issue of trust, we seem to have boxed ourselves into this situation. The government, we're talking about Nigeria. Nigeria is made up of the government and the governed, federal, state, and local governments. But to an extent, and you have spoken about this quite elaborately yourself, Dr. Ikechukwu, people, particularly those who find themselves in positions of authority, don't quite represent the intentions for which the people sent them there as well as they ought to. That's not to justify what the Canadian judge has said, but then it also begs the question whether or not we ourselves are putting ourselves in a good light or the other way around.
Now, the statement about the people not representing the intentions of those who said them is open to argument, and I'll tell you why. If my plan for getting to the National Assembly is to ensure that within the next 4 years, I make about 20 billion, and I spend a lot of money and get myself to the National Assembly, I'm pursuing my intentions. In order to get there, you had within my constituency a very competent gentleman or a lady, honest, well-known, trusted, dependable in every way, but everybody knows me to be a rather shady character. Nobody can explain the source of my income, etc. We present ourselves for election, and the other person tells you what he or she is going to do, which he's been doing even without being in government. He'll do more of it. But I come around and I give each of you 10,000 on the day of the election, and you accept the 10,000 and vote me in. My dear brother Ayo, you have actually voted in the person who will deliver what you want, which is irresponsibility as leadership. Once I get in, I have no need to get back to you because I already paid you upfront at the rate of 2,500 naira per annum. So when you say, oh, the people, their expectations, and I've asked this a lot of times even on air, if you as moderator now, you're made a minister, Tinubu announces you as a minister tomorrow morning, what's the likely attitude of your cousins, your friends, your colleagues, your schoolmates? You've been a minister for 2 months and somebody comes and says, an friend, Ayo, boy, I'm looking for how to sort out some things. I need some 50 million naira to put into my business. And you quickly say, okay, come back in 2 hours, I'll give them the money. He will ask you where it came from. That is the quality of the human capital. So let's stop pretending that there are angels who are nice and waiting, and then somehow devils come to rule over them. No, we know their antecedents, they have their profile. We consciously and deliberately rig on their behalf for a fee. Our schools are shut down, and we say these people are wicked, whereas we're the ones who elected people who don't see the value of education. So I will not at all in any way subscribe to the presumed innocence of the masses. In what way are they innocent? So let's not begin to kid ourselves. There were times in this country when leaders created GRAs, MI Okpara in the southeast, even a military Hassan Katsina in Kano, and did not any of them get any plot in those places? No. In the case of Katsina, when somebody applied on his behalf, the PAM sec shredded the thing. He said, how come? And went to speak to the governor. We're here for the people. Do you have that? And yet there are the people who are getting chieftaincy titles. There are the people who stay in the front row in the church. There are the people, when they come late to church, they must come late anyway. As they are walking in, they are looking around and shaking hands and chatting with their friends in the presence of what's supposed to be the presence of God. And by the way, they also are carrying guns to protect them from angels. That's the country in which we are. I am my brother, and my colleague is speaking over there. Somebody will come, oh, Professor K, you know, we heard you saying this the other day, and that and that and that. You know, the thing is for the people to rise. I say, rise from where? You're poor and hungry. You can't transport yourself to work, right? What will the rising translate to? Again, it just changed the leadership. When Buhari was sworn in, everybody was afraid that something new had happened. And to everyone's surprise, we had electricity non-stop for 2 weeks. People became alarmed. Light has not been going off. Is something wrong with the country? After 2 weeks, they noted the reflexes and went back to where we are. So to come around to the substantive issue you raised, the Nigerian state as it exists today is a historical necessity and the consequence of the level of consciousness of the people. So when people criticize specific governments, oh, can you imagine what a Jonathan government did? Look at Tinubu government, it is doing this or not doing that. None of them fell from the moon. That's why we must focus on national interest, not specific governments. You fight to people who make enemies, become mortal enemies, because they're either supporting one government or opposing it. Meanwhile, the thing doesn't concern them in terms of their personal relationships.
Okay.
So, Canada matter. Back to the Canada matter. The issue is out in the international domain, not just in the public domain. It's a perception that less than 2% will take time to analyze the origin. Just like when I mentioned the thing about, oh, Nigeria will collapse in 25 years. Everybody thinks it's a substantive submission from one of the greatest investigative and security agencies in the world. No, it was a research by a young man. So we have a duty to take this head on. If NRMG is fixing 15th October every year as Nigeria's Reputation Day, it's not in order to come and make speeches. It's not in order, and that's a mistake we made about national reputation. You say there's something wrong with the country. They say, oh, in the past, you know, if you kept firewood outside or your food, nobody will take it. When you come back home, we need to remind ourselves that today is not that time. And what is it that needs to be done to return to that kind of behavior? That's the issue. The presumptive, you know, if you like, begging the question, oh, we are, you forget you're using past tense, present tense. What kind of people are you voting for? How are you behaving in the office? Least those in government. You're complaining, oh, Tinubu, this federal government is doing this and that. So I ask you, do you have a ward chairman? Yes. Do you have a council chairman? Yes. Do you have a local government chairman who gets no less than 100 to 250 million naira every month? Yes. Do you have a governor? Now leave the governor. Come back to your local government chairman. Has anybody ever asked what that does, how that happens? And you expect that democracy will grow when our thinking, once we think of government, we think of federal. Everybody needs to wake up.
Absolutely.
People have role to play in their local environment.
Yeah.
And then, most critically, you have what you call national interest reporting in media management. That has to come back. That is why my colleague there will say that go to the US, you wouldn't even know the CNN will watch here exists. Go to the US, you're not going to get shortwave radio, it's only frequency modulation. Because shortwave radio will give you access to a wider network and you know what's going on. This is an insular society, but they'll come here and tell you all sorts of things. You know, you and I cannot go now and dump 3 trillion on any of the parties. No. But the American law allows dark money. Legally, you're not allowed to question how much they put into a party or for what interest. Legally. And we're here trying to be angels, supervised by semi-demons, and hoping to be accorded medals for good behavior.
You know, you've raised
one last line on this. You know, we are said to be one of the most corrupt in the country, in the world, number whatever. Where do you take stolen money to? And it's said, Swiss banks. Go and check the rating of that country on Transparency International Index for Corruption. We need to wake up. And I go back to that statement. The American Secretary of State was not allowed to land. Don't come here to tell us what to do after a change of government in our country. Africa has come of age. We need to say we've come of age. International politics, if you don't say here I am, I tell you this, nobody's going to turn around and say there you are. But in this case, I know where you are. You're in the studio. Don't worry.
Well, we'll come back to that one, Dr. Ikechukwu. Well, Honorable, he raised some issues about people questioning, and I actually like the way this is going, that this whole tag is coming perhaps because the people themselves are not probing the issues, and that's what Dr. Ikechukwu is saying. So if we're talking about national reputation, it comes down to the people. But he raised an issue about, you know, the people questioning how the local government chairman spends X amount of money, 250 million naira, he says, on the average, that goes to, you know, various local government administrations, depending on which state they are. Can you tell us how do you think people can do that today? Hold particularly the local government's administrations in their localities to account? Because I think that's where this whole reputation thing starts from.
Agreeably. Until we become each other's watchdogs, we're not going anywhere in this country. The fact is that you can't put it at the doorstep of the federal government. How do we get to achieve this? We need to ask our local representatives questions. Our councillors will live within. How?
How do we do
that?
Okay,
so we have
policemen with guns around them all the time.
No, the local councillors, which represent each ward, live amongst us. If it's difficult to see the governor, it shouldn't be difficult to see your local councillor, your councillor of your area. It should not be difficult for you to walk to your local government. These are within the vicinity of everyone. The question is, everybody leaves this responsibility to the other. Nobody is conscious about it. When last did I write to my local government chairman? When last did I call his attention to a pothole on the roads where I work?
Do you even know who that local government chairman is?
Yes, I do. I know who the local government chairman is.
I'm talking about the average Nigerian.
Does he care? Yes,
a councillor, does he care?
Yeah, an average Nigerian does not care. You understand? The other day they had Lagos State local government elections.
Yeah.
And I drove around the estate where I live. Everywhere was empty. You call that voters' appetite. But these are people who are coming to represent you. Whether you think your vote counts or it doesn't count, we have the civic responsibility and the primary responsibility to make sure that we vote. And now these people have been elected. They are in office. Should we still just fold our hands and say, oh, it's just 3 years, oh, it's just 4 years? Let us also be seen as good citizens, to be asking questions, to be pruning and be making recommendations as expected. Okay. Write your first letter, do a visit, be seen to have done your own part, and let's see if something happens or not.
Now, I'll ask Dr. Ikechukwu this, but I want you to have a first go at it. How do you see us as a people championing Nigeria's reputation and not just leaving it to the reputation management group?
Well, it has to be a conscious thing that we all have to be ready about. We need to change our mindset about it. We need to be very patriotic about this country. We need to be fair on this country. Like I said earlier, we're not where we ought to be. But we need to give the system an opportunity to work. And we also need to tell ourselves, we need to constantly do a check on ourselves to ask ourselves, in the little things that are committed to me, whether in my workplace, when I drive, in my neighborhood, am I also doing what is expected that will portray Nigerians and myself as being good people?
Okay.
Thank you.
Dr. Ikechukwu, I'll ask you that same question as well for Nigerians at home and abroad. What do you propose? Is there an NRMG plan, or is this something you think? How do we conscientize ourselves about Nigeria's reputation?
There is an NRMG plan and program detailed to drill down, but that will be seen in the execution. What's to pay attention to respect of the question you asked, is simple. You're talking about reputation. You're talking about mindset. You're talking about affecting the people. The first step is for everyone to start where he is. Begin where you are. What is it I can do differently? Because when you talk about reputation of a country, among other things, it's easy to get deluded. And I'll cite two examples. When Nigeria is playing football, everybody is excited. We are supporting our team. And you find some political leaders saying, this is genuine patriotism. You know, if only we can retain that patriotism and carry it into every aspect of our national life, and then there will be, that solidarity will remain there. My response always, and which will still be the same today, is that life is not a game of football. In the case of football, there are two teams that are chasing a round object and kicking it viciously. One of them is standing between two poles, risking his life just to catch the object. That in itself is sufficiently exciting. Now, that's not. After that football, your attention is taken away from that source of tension and concern, and you remember you've not eaten. That's one. Two, when we also speak of patriotism, some people think of what happens during National Day celebration. Some people will dress in green, come and sing, talk about inter-tribal, inter-ethnic marriages. That cannot give you a new Nigeria. What can give you the kind of nation you're talking about is a sense of equity, clear indication by the leaders that they know where they are. Ask yourself, how many governors travel by road? Ask yourself how many interstate roads are good enough for that. And I'm talking, you see, once you talk, they say, oh, yes, it is terrible. Who are you attacking? Go back to the 16 years of PDP. The road from Kaduna to Abuja was bad throughout those years. No, that road was not completely good at any point at all. The same for the road from Port Harcourt to Enugu to Onitsha, all of them federal roads. So these are issues to consider that we also must ask ourselves to what extent we are connected with the people. We are creating more and more disconnect. I'll go, I have my policemen, nobody can visit me, but coming around to the critical issue, the schools are involved, parents are involved. It's about return to simple etiquette. What is wrong is wrong. If anybody is able to understand that and progressively drill it down, it will make a lot of difference. The mistake there is that we assume that once we come and talk to the public and say, you see, you have to be patriotic, you have to support national interest, this is our country. The man is wondering why you called him. After he has no refreshment, he says, you see, this will just wasted my time. But if he's lucky, the occasion is a rally and he gets a t-shirt, he says, okay, I'll use this t-shirt. Another party comes, he goes to get another t-shirt. He's not a member of any political party. Political parties must begin membership drive by grassroots mobilization. Every party should aim to have at least one gathering in the local government every quarter. That's how they will get together. That's how they know they have an ideology. That's how the chairman will know and relate to the people, among other things.
Yeah, that raises a lot of other questions on its own. I'm just wondering, thankfully this issue is about political parties, not about some representative of the state or not about some ethnic group. Thankfully, that is it. Hopefully, this will give the political parties themselves some awakening that not just Nigerians are watching, the whole world is watching how we play our politics. If we are interested in what's happening in ZANU-PF and we are interested in what's happening in the political parties in Iran, most certainly the world is interested in what's happening in our political parties as well. Thank you so much for your time this morning. Dr. Oke Ikechukwu is Executive Director, Development Specs Academy. We appreciate your time and perspectives, as well as Honorable Adebayo Shikomaya, who is Principal Partner, Valiant Valor. Thank you. Valiant and Valor. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you for having me.
Now, that is an achievement, and that's what we're talking about next. An achievement, but junior achievements. We'll talk more about that when we return. Thank you for staying with us. Entrepreneurship is not only about creating businesses. It's about solving problems, creating jobs, and driving positive change in society. So in Nigeria and across Africa, entrepreneurs are tackling critical challenges in education and several others, other parts of our lives. Now, this conversation spotlights how entrepreneurship can be leveraged to address social issues, foster innovation, and inspire the next generation. It draws from the VIMP 2025 experience powered by the Junior Achievement Nigeria. We explored how emerging leaders are being equipped with skills, networks, and mindsets to lead transformational change. Let's have this conversation this morning with three people joining me here. Mr. Oluwatosin Oyeta is the Assistant Manager Programs. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much for having me, sir.
He's the Assistant Manager Programs, Junior Achievement Nigeria. We also have with us Boluwatife Fiona Odebomi, Class Vice President and virtual participant.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks for joining us. And Vese Ho, Class President and on-site participant.
Thanks for having me.
No wonder you're addressing very presidential. Let me begin with you, Mr. President.
All right.
Before VIMP, you were both of you were starting out.
Yeah.
So what motivated you to apply, and what were your expectations? I mean, you were just starting out in business, career, maybe in your career or your business. So what was the motivation to join this, and what were your expectations?
Okay, so before VIMP, I had co-founded a startup, Ginegy Technologies, and I was trying my hands at the compressed natural gas industry pretty much. And then I met someone who had advised me to put in for the Venture in Management program, which is VIMP, right? And he told me how that this would not only put me in a good network, but also provide me with technical knowledge, you know, to do business and do it the right way with impact in view. So for me, that was the motivation, really. Join the VIM program, be part of a community that was, you know, forward thinking in terms of Nigeria's problems, you know, and also just see how that I would build strong networks that would help me do business better, pretty much.
Fiona?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. For me, I really liked how the alumni of the program stood out. So when I heard about the program, I researched it. I saw that I had 2 alumni in my network, and they were very distinct from the other people in the network. So I reached out to them, and then I really wanted to know what made them stand out in a way that the way they do entrepreneurship, they were not just trying to make money, they were trying to impact people. So that was it for me.
Interestingly, the president was agreeing with you as you spoke. You couldn't see it, but I could.
Yeah.
But it was an intensive week, right, at the LBS. What was the most impactful lesson or course in the program, you know, that changed your perspective? Is it business or career for you?
It's business.
Business, okay.
Okay. The most impactful course was the Marketing Essentials by Prof. Uchenna, right? And for me, I'm a kinesthetic learner, so I like to look at what I'm doing with what I'm learning. So I'm currently a rotational intern, so I'm currently with the marketing department. So the things he was saying, I was resonating with them. And he said something. He said, when you do marketing, first of all, you position your brand, you have a good product, you market it. And when you market it, you start with below the line. You let people experience it before you go mainstream. So that was very impactful for me.
Mr. President, beyond the curriculum,
Very well.
what else was the most valuable part of the VIMP for you? I'm not talking about the mentorship and alumni. How about the food?
Oh dear, okay. So the food, like everyone who knows LBS will tell you, the food is always superb, amazing, and the culture that the people serve you the food with, it's very courteous and makes you feel at home, right? But beyond that, I think that the selection process was really thorough to bring very, very incredible young people together. So, you know, the interactions that we had amidst ourselves were very profound and thought-provoking. Maybe lastly for me would just be the environment itself, the LBS environment where the program was going on. There was a level of structure that is second to none to what I've seen so far, you know, and you would hear hear them say they've maintained this level of excellence for over 30 years. And, you know, it just goes down to culture and ethics in the way that they operate the programs, the LBS as a program. So it was amazing for me.
Was it food for you as well?
I was a virtual
participant.
Oh. So you missed the food part?
I missed the food.
Was it the e-food? Okay. How does this one differ from previous VIMs for you?
All right, thank you for that question. Okay, so for us, this is the 25th year of running the venture management program. And basically, we impacted over 1,000 beneficiaries through this program. For us this year was strategic to ensure that, you know, we're able to integrate them into the world of work, making them understand that entrepreneurship is not just about doing business. It's also making them understand that we are gradually moving to a system where, as you are doing business the right way, you are also impacting people. So we were careful to select individuals who had the mind to give back to their community. And that was what informed the participants that we selected for this year's venture management program.
And how does this one, does it really prepare young leaders, not just to build businesses? How does it prepare them to impact communities?
Thank you for that very good question. So the program is designed in such a way that we prepare them through the learning of, through case studies conversation, you know, practical problem-solving skills, you know, from world-class learning of business, Lagos Business School, obviously, you know, making them have a good experiential knowledge, hands-on experiential knowledge of how to ensure that they know what it means to start up a business. And also beyond starting up a business, they themselves, you know, because in the world of entrepreneurship, there's a concept of entrepreneurship and intrapreneurship. That is, you can also build a career with an organization and ensure that you are contributing valuably to that organization.
Like a business owner?
Yes, exactly. And you take ownership of what is happening within the organization.
Well, Mr. President, Mr. Ho, so CNG is relatively, well, it's not new in Nigeria, but it's relatively new in terms of its prominence and practice and everything.
Very well.
So how does this, what skills or mindset would you say you have gained from this VIM that is going to change how you do business?
So one of the faculties that took us on ethics made statements around the fact that you could be ethical in doing business, and while in the short term it may not look profitable or to your advantage, in the long run you would find that you do business better, and serious-minded people who want to really do business with good quality will come to you. So for me, the ethics and leadership sessions stood out, right? How would that inform doing business? It would really just be how ethical can we approach this, right? We want to talk to people about CNG is relatively new. There are certain myths that they have around it. How do we honestly communicate CNG or whatever it is that we're trying to do in such a way that we don't hide certain things that could be important for them, but most importantly, ensure that everyone is aware of what it is that they're getting into, right? So just being able to be considerate in that sense and do business honestly is one of the biggest ways that I would say the VIM program will impact how we do business generally.
You know, Madam, the young people have a general apathy towards Nigeria or even towards any country in Africa. When you say nobody wants to emigrate to Congo, nobody wants to jackpot to Kenya. Everybody wants to go to where it seems to be happening, and it's all about how those countries have been projected. Now, in line with this year's theme, why do you think entrepreneurship is critical to transforming Nigeria and Africa today?
Okay. So this year's theme, entrepreneurship as a tool for societal transformation, it's very deep, yeah. So it's basically, like you said, everybody wants to run away. Everybody wants to go to where it has already happened, where it's shiny. But we shouldn't run away. We have to stay because we have to transform the society. What entrepreneurship does is that as an entrepreneur, you provide value, and it's that value that impacts life. You create jobs for people, and you solve a problem that is big or small, but you're solving a problem. You shouldn't run from the problem. So that is how.
How do you convince people to solve problems when they believe that the problem, it is government that should be solving the problem and not them?
The problem is not for the government. It's all about the mindset. Like you said, they believe. So if you want to convince them, you have to change their mindset. That's what VIMP is doing.
Oh, you must have a magic wand to change their minds. Anyway, don't answer that question yet. Now, Sadiq, how have you been able to measure the impact of VIMP, by the Junior Achievements Nigeria, over the years?
All right, that's a very good question. So for over the 1,000 participants, beneficiaries who had gone through the program, we have had landmarks doing quality and great work in their space. And we have quite a number of testimonies to that effect. Right. So, individuals who participate in VIMP, they take that as a learning to go into the economy and build something solid for themselves and for the country at large. So we have individuals who are doing greatly well in their space, and they are obviously affecting and impacting the lives of young people across the country. Now, beyond that as well, one of the great testimonies that we've had from VIMP is also the reflection of how participants or beneficiaries of the program who are also well placed with what they do, they've also come back to be a part of, supporting the program and ensuring that we're able to sustain and continue in the trajectory of ensuring that we're able to bring in more young people and impact them in this same fashion.
How do you recruit?
Oh, very good.
Because you talked about
selection.
And is there an election somewhere?
Election for president, but there's election president.
But you have to be a citizen to be elected president. So how do we gather the citizens, first of all?
Yeah, that's a very good question. This year, it's interesting to know that we had over 1,100 applications from young individuals who were interested in joining the program. And that was the first process for it to us. So we give them essays to write, and they submit their entries. So we ask them questions around, if they had the opportunity to meet with Mr. President, what problem would they be pushing to Mr. President to solve? And they write it as an essay. And so we review those essays, and then we look out for individuals, as I've mentioned, based on the theme for this year, individuals who have the mindset of ensuring that they want to impact in the long run, not just to do business, but they want to impact the community. So we look out for those individuals, and then we streamline the selection process down, from the number of individuals that we receive. And then after that, we go ahead to interview those that have crossed the first ordeal. And then after the interview, based on their merit score from the interview process, we end up selecting those that eventually make it to the venture management program.
And you talked about some alumni who have come back to contribute. So how do organizations who want to support what you're doing to build a better Nigeria, can those organizations be a part of the process?
All right, very good question as well. So they can be a part of the process by sponsoring the program. They can also partner with us to contribute. So one of the sessions of the program is experience sharing session, where experts and past participants who are alumni and are doing well, they come back to share their stories with the beneficiaries and make them understand that it's not obviously as it looks. you know, this is what order we crossed, and this was how eventually we were able to scale through, right? So you know, individuals who are interested to support the program can support by sponsoring, by also, you know, sharing their experience through volunteering to share their experience, and also mentoring. One access to this program is also to ensure that young individuals who are interested in building careers also get job opportunities. So individuals who have built their business strong enough to employ young individuals are also, you know, available to, you know, be a part of this to ensure that they can recruit young minds and make them engaged, you know, and putting in the learnings from the venture management program into their business.
All right. Well, madam, 2025. As he said, more than 1,000 applications for shortlisting, 150 of you, both virtual and in person. Now, based on your journey, what one piece of advice would you give to a young Nigerian considering VIMP?
Okay, so I wouldn't give them one piece of advice, I would give them two. I would say research about the program, research about alumni, see what they are doing, see what's happening, research about the sponsors, Junior Achievement Nigeria, Lagos Business School, see what they are doing, right? And then clarify your own goals, what you're expecting from the program, what is your aim, state out your values, look at what they have, look at what you have, and align yourself with that.
Mr. Ho.
Yes, please.
Young people don't have this patience. You just want to blow.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Particularly if you are not in Lagos, Abuja, Port Harcourt, or Kaduna, those happening places, or maybe Kano. Wherever you are, you just want to blow. Forgetting that blow has something to do with bomb. Don't go there. How do we persuade people about this mindset thing, that mindset should be more about developing others as opposed to stocking your pocket?
That is interesting.
Yeah, you are president. You have to be.
So I think it starts with values from the home.
Wow.
Yeah, I think it starts with values from the home. If you grow up in a home where you have been trained, and maybe for starters, even examples, right? So you have parents who are examples of the values they would have you inculcate, or you have environment, you know, that supports certain kinds of values. You find that young people will grow to reflect the values of those environments, right? So maybe just to throw out first, it will not be starting with the young people. It will start with everybody who constitutes the environment in which these young people are living, and the kinds of stories that we share, right? So people who have gone ahead and are successful should be willing, ethically, by the way, have gone ahead and are successful ethically, should be willing to create time to tell young people the story, their own stories, you know, and how they arrived at that point. Somehow, you know, we would begin to see that the narrative that good would only delay you is not completely true, and that if you want to build something that is formidable and long-lasting, then it has to follow process, right? So I think that's a good place to start. And just really, and I would say for somebody who is interested, you have to be a certain kind of person. So it's beyond, oh, this is what is in vogue, or this is how people are doing it. You need to realize that at the core, if you're not a certain kind of person that attracts success, you may play optics and still end up going back to the ground point where you started. So really just having people teach people how they went through process could be a way of encouraging young people to go through process.
You have marked the papers of like 100% of parents in Nigeria, and I think maybe 30% of them have scored well, because given what we see today, parents handling their children to some clerics to beat up, parents funding their children to go to prom and spraying dollars on them in Nigeria. You have marked their papers and you have scored them.
I hear you.
Thank you so much for your time this morning. Mr. Vesey Ho is class president and on-site participant. Boluwatife Fiona Odebumi is class vice president and virtual participant. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, as well as Mr. Oluwatosin Oyedayo, assistant manager programs of JAN. We appreciate your time today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Okay, our next conversation is about parent-child bonding, particularly father-daughter bond. Now, someone is asking, if you take care of the father-daughter bond, who's going to take care of the mother-son bond? That's not what we're talking about today. Today is father-daughter bond. Talk about that when we return. Thank you so much for staying with us. That video is talking about a wedding, right? Don't worry, I don't know, I don't understand what they're saying. Maybe my guest will be able to tell us about that. But I have a friend that tells me there's absolutely nothing in the world that any man will tell her to sway her so easily that her dad has not told her. And then we also have a situation where some ladies would rather go get married to anybody for whatever reason than remain in their homes with their parents. And it raises a lot of questions. You wonder why some people have died in abusive marriages for whatever reason. Let's have this conversation this morning about the father-daughter bonding with Kingsley Obama-Egbulem, who is a parenting and teens counselor. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you so much, Ayo, for inviting me.
I read your article, and it's long, but it raises a lot of questions. First of all, tell us what's this whole idea of father-daughter bonding means, and what does it imply?
Wow, Ayo, you always like starting with a jam question. This one is it. Okay, let me see how I can pack this. I look at it from this metaphor. The girl you gave birth to, you've been taken to school, attend PTA meetings, pick her up back. You do that year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5, year 6. Perhaps you continued in year 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. She graduates from secondary school and then gets into the university, graduates as, let's say, a lawyer, whatever it is, and eventually gets married. And one day, this girl, you're told that this girl is dead. And she died while she was having a brawl, kind of a fisticuff with the man who was meant to be her lover. And then you start to ask yourself, where did we get it wrong? Where did we miss this? How did she end up with a man who would beat her to the point where she sustained internal injuries, got to the hospital, and was pronounced dead? Who didn't do his job or her job? So this is a picture that a lot of fathers can actually identify with. Now, I'm using the word fathers in parentheses because if you are indeed a father, you should not have to go through this process where you're bearing your daughter or you're receiving the corpse of your daughter because she got married to a brute, a beast who beat her up or who kept beating her up, and she couldn't tell you guys that this is what she's going through until she was brought home dead. Now, my interrogation of all of these scenarios that we kept seeing is at some point where, I mean, you said it so well. Why would a girl want to run away from home and into the arms of just any boy? Why would a girl want to go for youth service? And part of her plan is that I am not coming back to this house. And because she's not coming back, she needs to get married, and that becomes her escape outside the house. And then what kind of a home is that where you have a father and a mother, and they have girls who would rather live and be living with a badly brought up boy just so they can escape this house, you know? So my conclusion is, and which is where that I think I have a control over, which is to create a movement, to build the capacity of men to become more like a buffer, to create a buffer zone that is a house, so to speak, where these girls will want to come back to no matter where they go to. And if somehow they are outside and they're going through a tough time, and they remember that, oh, daddy will be here in a short while, or when I get home, I'm going to meet with daddy, 2-3 hours with him, and I'm going to be myself again. And that is something that we need to intentionally do. Not when the girl becomes a university graduate, but right from the time she's leaving the cradle. We create the time to be in this girl's life. That way, we start to shape her values. We start to shape her principles. We start to influence her taste. Indeed, her career choices, her relationship, you know, create the templates, the standard for the kind of relationship she wants to build when she becomes an adult.
How does a... I'm sorry, I say this, I'm some kind of campaigner for parents. Because the reality is the reality.
It is.
Today's generation is a totally different one, both for the parents and for the kids. Because the parents are a lot busier now. Economy is not smiling.
Even with all these statistics.
How much is your school fees that you are paying this month? Don't answer.
No,
now there are those who would rather pay, pay the school fees for a whole session.
Okay.
And there are those who can only afford to pay, you know, per quarter. And the economy is not being any gentler.
Can I add this to it? There are many who would rather spend the money in a rehab than do their work. Just put that in the...
It's not possible.
Boy, that's happening. Because if you refuse to make out time and then your child starts to move around with people they shouldn't be moving around with, it's only a matter of time. They meet somebody who introduces them to drugs. And the rest, let's say, is strange.
Okay.
But that's a conversation for another day.
Well, yes, but, you know, but that reality is not lost on us either. That the parents, that the issues that they have to deal with are real as real can be. So how do we, first of all, the parents themselves have to be in a certain frame of mind. Let's talk about the father.
Yes, please.
Has to be in a particular frame of mind to be able to take responsibility the way you're talking about.
Yes. In this context, okay, Ewa, I need to move you, I need to show you some things. Now, if you go to the prisons, the female prison, most of the girls, and I'm using this word emphatically, most of the girls in the female prisons, or most female prisoners, either they didn't have a father, as in they didn't know who their father is, or they don't have a relationship with the one they could relate with, the ones they saw as their father. Then you have another side to it. Most of them got into prison because, one, the man they married was either a criminal or they became accessory to the crime of the man they were in love with. Now, look at that picture. So from not having a father, now you married a guy who was also from a dysfunctional environment. You got involved in his life, and now you are in jail. Two, you have the ones who they were never properly raised by anybody, father, mother. They committed crimes, and they are in jail. Now, those are the female prisoners. Now, if you go to an average drug rehab, most of the female drug users undergoing rehabilitation are also in this picture. No father, a void that could have been filled when they were young. And last but not least, most female sex workers and most of the women in shelters for abused women are also within this bracket. No father. Now, you find a woman who has built a fantastic relationship with her father. Your father was there as a mentor. Your father was there as your coach. Your father was there as your first lover. And then, whether or not he's a man of means, there's something he must have done for you. And what is that thing? He provides the basis for you to have what they call self-concept. Your self-concept answers the basic question, who do you think you are? That's what your self-concept helps you answer. Do you get? So for a girl, the father provides the basis for her responding to that question. Who the hell are you? Who do you think you are? Once you have a father who has been involved in your life, who has shaped your sense of self, who has provided the basis for you to evaluate yourself, and based on that evaluation, you come to say, hey, come on, I am Makinde's daughter. Oh, who is Ayo Makinde? He doesn't have to have $1 billion. So long as this guy called Ayo Makinde prioritizes me, can decide to take a day off just to be with me and, prioritize the things that I hold dear to. Attend my PTA meeting, come to open day. Come on. There's nobody like him. So that gives me the audacity to move around with springs on my leg. So that girl, when Ayo Makinde continues like that, you can't come and be waving whatever it is in front of her. What do you have? Like the Igbo man would say, what have you has that I don't have?
But I said something about this generation.
Oh yeah.
In the day, there are those, we still talk about values now as the ideal.
Yeah.
And I marvel, because values was not just the ideal.
Yeah.
Then the value was it.
It is.
Now,
was the real deal.
Yes, but today we talk about values like they are lost. Now, you go on socials now, people base their standards on means, on money, on he gave me this, he gave me that. So if your father doesn't have this, I mean, you've seen that joke. What does your father have? My father is the owner of Liverpool. Oh, my own father is the owner of the White House and all that kind of thing.
It also, I mean, your last guest said something that resonates so well with me, which is what we've been preaching. If the house has not collapsed, the city will not collapse. You see, if there's no dysfunction at home, it won't happen in society, because our society is, like is an extension of our homes. So when you have a father who is moving with who's putting up appearances, trying to be who he's not, you've only ended up replicating after your kind, reproducing after your kind rather. Your children will do, like they say, press down, shaking together, and running over. So when you have children who, they have seen their father as a man who, first of all, he has a low self-esteem, and he would rather be like somebody else than be himself, your children are going to beat you to it. They will do more. So when the home is intact, when the home is well run, because every father, like I always say, every father is a CEO. Yes. And just like every business, every home deserves a CEO that has a vision, that has the capacity to manage properly, that can model. So what you're modeling, if you can see it as, this is Ayo Makinde's Nigeria Limited. I'm the CEO. These are the other shareholders in this business. We have our regular board meetings, okay, to appraise. And if you're sincere, you could ask other board members, how is this CEO doing part-time? And they will tell you the truth. And then it's now left for our CEO to, okay, this board, the members of this board, they are not happy with me not coming home early. Okay, guys, when is early as far as you're concerned? Oh, dude, fall in before 7 o'clock. All correct, sir.
Okay. Now, parents, families have adopted what I can call assistant or co-parents.
Okay.
Schools, mosques, churches, caregivers, and there's teachers, coaches, and all of that. The challenge of streamlining vision or values exists. A Kingsley has certain values that Kingsley may not be sure that the teacher
are going to uphold,
is aligned with.
Okay.
That the caregiver at church or mosque is aligned with. That the housekeeper is aligned with.
Yeah.
That the mates in class are aligned with. How do we maintain these alignments, particularly from the father's perspective?
You know, if you go back to the CEO, analogy that I shared. First of all, aside the housekeeper, every other institution you mentioned, they are all custodians of culture and socialization.
Expectedly.
Well, yes, they are. So, as agents of socialization, the church, the school, they have a role to play. However, if you, as the father, if you are playing the CEO role, for lack of a better word, it is expected that the parameters that informs your choice of school, church, or whatever, even a house help, should be informed by
your values.
That's it. It's an exchange of baton, okay? I'm giving to Ayo as the head of SYZ school because I know that Ayo has demonstrated and exhibited certain values that I think he's expressing through the school he runs. So I know very well that because I've bought into Ayo's personal, principles and lifestyle, I can't expect anything less when I bring my kids to his school because he's going to continue from where I stopped and back to, Same way, if Ayo runs a church and I subscribe to his personal values, I know very well that he would have made his personal values the values of that ministry or whatever it is that he runs, the same way. So if I did my due diligence, right, that will inform my choice. And then if I'm bringing in a house up, a domestic staff into the house, I have to, like they say, acculturize them, induct them and let them know this is how we roll here. Wherever you're coming from, please don't bother. But this is how we roll here. So if you have issues with this, let me know. But this is how we roll. And that way they fall in line and your children would not have to bother with countercultures. Do you understand? That is it for me. But a lot of people don't bother. The answer is, you see a man who is running a school. The guy's house is in disarray. His children have all gone bonkers. And he runs a prestigious school somewhere in Lekki. And you decide to take your children there. And then the next day, your children are smoking marijuana and you're wondering, Oga, it was your seed. You are harvesting what you planted. So don't take it for granted that because I own a school or because I run a church, everything is okay with me. No, no. Go and find out. And if you have a concern, if there are concerns with respect to the vibes, that's how we say it now, isn't it? If the vibes are not vibing, okay, if you take your child there, what you see is your fault.
How about the situation? I've asked this question several times. You find a situation where some fathers need fathering.
Oh, yeah.
And
yeah.
they are already fathers.
I'm telling you.
So I really wonder.
Don't take me there.
Wait, there's something that I want you to do for the viewer right now.
Okay.
People who have it going good don't know how precarious the situation is out there. Give us a picture.
Oh, okay. I agree with you. We had a meeting, we had a program, and so it was storytelling. We're telling our parenting stories.
Okay.
And You know, people shared how they were raised, and boy, one lady got up and said, Uncle Kingsley, I think we owe our parents a lot of gratitude. I said, really? Say, yes. Some of these things, I could only imagine them. I don't know they exist. In other words, a girl is going to school. She has packed her stuff. And guess what she added to the things she packed? Sex toys. Wow. Yes. And the matron of the school also, she's a patron. She's, okay, matron. But she's also a patron, you know? They bring for her as well.
Wow.
So she checks a particular set of girls herself, knowing well that these are my people. This is
in a school.
Yep. Yes.
See what I'm saying?
So my take is, and it takes us back to the home. And if you're listening, please, nobody is going to do your job for you. Nobody. So the best you can do for yourself is, one, be intentional. Tell yourself that the children that I've raised, the children that God has given to me, they are going to be my gift to the world. You know, today we enjoy Mark Zuckerberg's brainchild, Facebook, isn't it? We enjoy which other one now? We all go to Amazon to shop. We go to all of these places, but people raise these guys. People, the Kemi Adetibas, name them, the Ayo Makindes and Co. Somebody raised them and gave them to us. My question is, are we going to be happy for the children you're giving to the world?
You know,
or are we going to keep swearing for you the day we come across your children?
I'll still keep asking that question. You talked about dysfunctional homes. Dysfunctional homes don't just happen.
Oh, no. It doesn't.
They come from dysfunctional people.
People
now
have gone through.
We are talking about fathers.
Yeah, and their daughters.
And their daughters. I wish there was a template. I wish there was a playbook.
Yeah, I can share one. You can start with.
Because the reason I'm asking is this. To a good number of parents there, they didn't grow up with all this Oyinbo way of life that you people talk about.
It's not Oyinbo way.
Now I'm coming. There is a reason I use the term.
Okay,
some people believe that
dismissively.
Look, my friend, sit down there. My dad. Once you do one thing that doesn't seem to align with what he wants, whether it's value or not, he just points to that corner. You know what you're going to do. Just stay. No. You have to do what they call the monkey cigarette.
Oh boy.
Oh God. You have to first of all, some people know what I'm talking about. The monkey cigarette. And then there's someone you just hold your 2 ears.
I hope you didn't inherit that. those cigarettes.
I have to explain it to my children.
Not by getting them to do it. You know, but there is a playbook, AY, for fathers and daughters relationship, which I have seen that it holds a lot of promise for us to stop churning out these girls who find Yahoo boys attractive. These girls who are going to become victims to ritual killers. Now, you have as a man, you're married to a woman, and you have been able to build an emotional connection with this woman, so to speak. We're assuming you have done that. Now, what are you meant to do? The same thing you've done with your wife, you're meant to replicate with your daughter. It's as simple as that. Understand that she has emotions. Understand that she has needs. And understand that she has something that she's passionate about. So what is your daughter passionate about? I think that's the starting point. For so many men, they already know. For those who don't know, then ask her. Ask your daughter, what are you passionate about? That is the starting point. So when you get into that zone, you find out that your daughter wants to open up, wants to travel the world, in her mind, sharing with you, you know, I want to become this one, I want to. That is a starting point to connect with. And then start to nurture from that. 2, what are her expectations from you? You can ask her. There are girls who don't want gifts from daddy. They just want to sit beside you. You do their homework, teach them, end of story. If you buy gifts, so be it. There are girls who want you to take them out, take them to eat, take them to shop, travel with them. Oga, do it. If you don't have the money to go to the abroad, go to Ibadan. Go to Abeokuta, do Morocco. This thing is not... I was watching one documentary the other day, and they said Shagari went on holidays, and they found out that he was in his village. That's holiday. So you don't have to have so much money. I have a popular restaurant in Lagos. I won't mention the name so that I won't be billed. I take my kids there. It's an elevated buka, and they love the food. While we are there, we talk, we gist. So it mustn't be any 5-star outing. Do you get? And then, what is the next template? As a male, you model your daughter's quest or hunger for intellectual activities. You are the one who would ignite her desire to want to be an intellectual. So, if you are a dunce as a father, we already have a problem. So what it means is that as a father, you need to start to desire, you know, build capacity, desire the intellectual, things that will boost your mind. Read books. And that way you can introduce that lifestyle to your daughters. And of course, your sons as well. Do you cook? Do you like to cook? You need to model what a man should do in the kitchen to your girls so that it begins to resonate with them that, oh, men also cook. Oh, yes, daddy cooks. So if you're meeting a guy who wants to turn you to a caterer, or that is a catering cook.
You're already giving my children some weapons right now. Because my daughter was telling her boss, we enjoy my daddy's food more than any other person. So please don't give her weapons to attack me with. But there is this, this is Victor always sending this one. Why am I not surprised that he's the one that is saying this? That bond can never be broken. It's only your first daughter that can command you, even where her mom cannot. They are mostly a reflection of us. We love them. Daku.
Yeah.
Well, if you don't understand Daku, Google it. Well, Skittish Money, that is Tola, is saying, this self-concept idea is the reason I don't support our culture of giving out our children to other people, even relatives, to live with. It damages the child, and that is what we saw in, that's what we see in adulthood.
Yeah.
People who have low self-esteem.
I agree with you. I agree with you a great deal. If you can keep your children in your house until they stop being impressionable, that's good. I mean, if you can, because it's important that everything they need to learn at that, what do you call it now? At that early stage, that age where you can mold them, they are still malleable rather. If they can be with you that period, please do. Once in a while, they can go out for not sleepover. Mba. I'm not a fan of sleepover.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Some parents think it's a hip thing to do.
Mba. Mba.
What's wrong with it?
If I have to add anything to the 10 Commandments, thou shalt not allow sleepovers. End of story. The truth is this. You know the person whose house you know the person they are going to sleep in their house, but you don't know the house. You don't know the house. There are times when you can have somebody who is schizophrenic. Apologies to anybody who is going through that. But you can't tell what will happen.
But isn't this, in a way, overprotecting the children? Here is why. Because this is one of the things that I try to share with my kids. The people out there, they don't have the kind of brain you have. They don't have the kind of sensitivities, cultures, values, etc. that you have. But guess what? You have to work with them. You have to go to school with them. You have to ride in buses with them. You have to, you know, receive services from them and all of that. So if we don't let them let them, or rather unleash these things onto them, and watch their reactions to them and all of that.
Okay.
What happens?
There are several ways to let them out without sleepovers, Uncle. Doesn't have to plead sleepovers.
Is boarding school not a sleepover?
It's not a sleepover.
Really?
It is not.
Okay.
Well, I may differ to that. It's a kind of sleepover, but it's a controlled environment. Okay. So,
but is it not the same sleepover school that you say that the matron is the one that is...
Without contradicting myself, AY, that's why I said, if you want your children to enjoy certain independence, the boarding school can help you achieve that. But in your choosing a boarding school, I'm not going to blanket all boarding schools. No. My kids are all in boarding schools. And so far, so good. But there are boarding schools, even free. Free. We didn't go. We didn't go there. I can't tell you for free. You get it? So that's why I said, have your values. Then when you want to release your children, let wherever you're taking them to, let them become a continuation. Let it be a continuum. Not something that will introduce something else. Strange stuff that you didn't bargain for. Do you understand? No. So I agree with you. Boarding school is like a sleepover. Yeah, in fact, that's a new knowledge now. It is a kind of sleepover, but it is a controlled sleepover where there are rules, where there are values, and learning is taking place. And if there are problems, for somebody like you, if you are the type who is constantly checking and checking, you will know when the monkey hand enter pot of soup.
There's also this perspective. Okay, I would say that this conversation is more about the fathers than the daughters.
Yes, it is more about the fathers.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, this is why I'm asking that. We expect the fathers to be more responsible than the daughter.
Yeah.
We expect
to have understanding.
Yes. We expect that the fathers would help model life to their daughters, model manhood.
That's it.
To their
positive masculinity.
Daughters. Definitely. You cannot be negative. That's why it's modeling. What kind of modeling you want to model? It's not positive. However, where fathers themselves have human vulnerabilities,
okay,
how do we help them to maintain that sense of responsibility and maturity while being the model
kind of relationship?
Yes.
Yeah. Now, first of all, a healthy father-daughter relationship has an incentive, and that incentive, or rather, has several incentives. One of them is it helps the girl understand how to be in an intimate, yet non-sexual relationship with the opposite sex. I'll tell you that again. It models how to be in a close relationship with the opposite sex without it being sexual. So the father-daughter relationship is meant to model that. Now, where the father has vulnerabilities and he is conscious of those vulnerabilities, he knows how to draw the line. Simple. How do you draw the line? You get the mother or your wife, if her mother is no longer there. You get your wife involved. But if you have vulnerabilities and you are fooling yourself about it, then it becomes a problem. But if you know that these are my vulnerabilities, and then we've done the job. The job is half done. So you know that you don't barge into your daughter's room. You must knock. Yes. You should hug your daughter, but you also know that when your daughter is hugging you and you have those vulnerabilities, you don't overhug.
I'm not talking about that kind of vulnerability.
Okay.
That is where your mind is going.
Oh,
but the point that I'm going, the point that even though it is part of it, but the point the question that I'd like to ask you is, can a father be honest and open
being
to
vulnerable.
a child.
Oh, you mean being vulnerable?
In that area.
And then your question was misleading. You should have said, how vulnerable can a father be?
Okay.
You get it, yeah. Of course.
I knew you would go to that place, so I tempted
well,
you.
Thank God I went there. Because a lot of fathers have been asking that question too. And they oh boy, how can, I said, Oga.
Especially when my daughter is blessed.
Yes, I said, if your area headquarters is always standing, when your daughter is around, you need to go and you need to check yourself. But that's by the way. Now, you see, our daughters need to know that we are human. We were boys, and we became men. We cried. They need to know that they need to know when we are broke, that we also go broke, that we get hit. I'm writing exams, and you can't believe it, Ayo. French was one of the courses I had to do. I failed it. I have to receipt.
Voila, Monsieur Meyer.
So, and my children, they are French, they are A's. I mean, so they say, Daddy, how did you fail it? I said, how will I not fail it? Am I French? So, that's me. So, I think it's not a big deal for a father to be vulnerable to that point. Vulnerable to the point where things are hitting you hard economically. It doesn't cost a thing to let your children know, guys, you see for this house, there's no milk this month. There's no milk. This pepper is not there. No, you just say, my friend, must you take milk? Okay, calm down. They are not the problem. The economy is eating you. So be vulnerable. And you're having a quarrel with mommy, rather than you forming, they know all is not well with both of you. Let them know. To some extent, don't worry. I'm having issues with mommy, but we're sorting it out, okay? Not that, fine. Then tomorrow, if you ask them, what's happening to you? I'm fine. Okay, you taught them. Even though women naturally, that's
the default.
That's your default, you know? So, be vulnerable. Let them know that you have your foibles. And you are not a Superman. Obviously, you're not. And if they spot out any of those shortcomings, guy, I hands up. Okay, what do you want me to do? Daddy, it is not, it was, oh, sorry. Okay. It was, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Apologize and move on.
The popular, one of the slangs making the rounds now is, men are scum.
Okay.
So, how does a father, who is a man that has been categorized as a scum, position himself to his daughters
as a non-scum? You see, there are stereotypes.
It's essentially, my apologies, and that's just an example of the stereotypes that are making the rounds. That young ladies, this is what ladies do, and all of that. The scenario with the beautiful lady who was embarrassed at the airport in that aircraft is one of those things still making the rounds. Some even say, I've heard some young ladies say that, look, hey, what's wrong with it? Do I have to wear, an underwear? I don't have to wear an underwear. And I'm like, I didn't know that was, a thing. So that's why I say this generation is totally different.
It's the playbook. My kids won't do that. So it is, I started with the man is the CEO. As the CEO, you run this house, okay? And this house is run with sense. There's no way you will run the house with sense and the children in the house will not borrow from that sense. So that's by the way. My daughter shared with me, I have 3 girls and a boy. They used to share this, that, Daddy, my classmates used to ask that, why are you always telling us, your daddy said, your daddy is... Do you discuss all these things with your daddy? So to my daughter, she felt, is it not a misnomer for you to be asking me this question? I'm trying to answer your question. whether somebody says men has come or not, you do your job, okay? Give your daughters, your girls, give them a different narrative. Give them a reality that is different from the popular narrative out there. And nobody, I believe nobody will be able to discountenance that. Nobody can change that. This is my reality. I have a father who I think is the best man in the world. I can't apologize for the men who have who have messed up with you. But this is my narrative. Yes, this is the standard, and I have it.
This fellow, by the way, Adewale Fakoya, is thanking us for this conversation.
Thank you.
Which, according to him, is so good for home upbringing in the lives of female children and their fathers. A home without a disciplined and solid father is just a house.
That's what it is.
The guest speaker did justice to the discussion. So we say thanks to you. Kingfisher is saying to you, however, it is already too late to stop young girls from being attracted to Yahoo boys.
It's not too late.
Wait. Yeah. It needs to be taken by the horn.
Good. So he left a room for us to intervene.
Yeah.
A girl who is currently being raised by a man now, and the man is pouring into her values, principles, ethics, standard of attainment, the right way to go, how to relate with the opposite sex, and above all, vision, how to dream, will not find a Yahoo boy attractive. Take it from me. Ayo, not all men are rich now. Not all men are wealthy. But not all girls are sleeping around. Not all girls are wasting away in the name of hooking up with Yahoo boys. No! There are girls who, they smell you from afar that this is who you are. They take the other way around. So let's look out for the counter narrative, the cultures that we want to propagate, that we want to proliferate. Let's look out for templates, models who have lived this life and they are getting away with it and having a good time. Let that become the examples we need to say this is possible. Do you understand? The fact that you live in a neighborhood where all the boys are Yahoo boys and they have girls who don't have fathers to create a standard for them. It is not too late.
Okay. There is one of the subjects I always like to talk about is communication. And communication is a two-way street. If the communication doesn't end with the fellow understanding exactly what you have in mind, you just give information.
I mean,
you just give a structure.
Yeah.
And the person, there is no communication here, so, you know, that hasn't happened. What models of communication would you, I don't know if there is such a standard model, would you propose for father-daughter bonding at a time when the communication styles or philosophies of both generations differ?
There's a template I like to share with parents. Indeed, fathers who want to build a fantastic relationship with their daughters. The 5 love languages. It works like magic. Yeah. You know, the person you want to relate with has a way she wants to be related with. Do you understand? There are ways she wants you to relate with her. And because you are her father, you are older, you've been around, it works well for you to find out how does this person wants me to relate with her. Back to communication. If you speak German and I speak English, and that's all I speak, and you don't speak English, we are not going to communicate.
Except there are German English words.
You understand? So, you who really, really needs me, you need to find a way to understand English. Otherwise, you're for you. So, find out the language your daughter speaks, the language your daughter understands, and begin to communicate with her based on that language. If your daughter loves your presence, Oga, make yourself available. And then you ask yourself, what will I be doing? The next phase. While you are around her, what is she doing? Is she doing homework? Oga, do homework. Is she washing? Wash. Is she cooking? Join her. They want your presence. And then, if you don't want to be around her, don't scream when you see her on the phone with one go somewhere. And the boy is telling her to come around, and you're saying, you've been with this boy, you've been talking with this boy for 2 hours. What are you talking? Okay? You are supposed to be her first love, and you're not there. What will happen? She will cheat on you. Somebody has taken your place.
That brings me to Kingfisher's next message. Social media has unfortunately taken away some children from their parents. Some pretend to keep to your so-called standards. Some block off parents from their social media.
Okay. Social media is a platform. It's a platform. It's not an individual. So let's not blame anything. If you do your work, social media will not take your children away. And then if you're doing your work, part of what you will understand as a sensible father is that children should not be exposed to social media until they are
X age.
For me, it is when you are done with secondary school. Hello. Hi. Yes. There's a lot to do. A father was asking me, you were on the phone with your daughter for almost an hour. I said, yes. What were you people discussing? I said, we were not gossiping and we were not quarreling. I said, if you can't hold a 1-hour conversation with your daughter,
somebody else will.
So you learn it. You learn it. Let's leave social media out of the way. Social media is a symptom of what has been. Do you get?
So essentially, social media will not be able to take the parents away, or the children
if the parents
away.
have not given their children to social media. That's it.
So parents shouldn't get too busy.
No.
To have time and make time for the kids.
That's the word. Have time, make time. I mean, we're joking as well. Saturday is our work day. Have you? That's the day we work as parents. The real work, not the other ones. That's the day okay, so how far? What are you doing today? Okay, so where do I help you? Am I dropping you off anywhere? When am I picking you? And that's it's our full day. And then you bring them back. So what's going on? I gave you this book to read. How far have you gone?
So you mean mommy and daddy are not going to go to wedding? They're not go to that dinner? They're not going to that social... That's the only day mommy and daddy have to rest? It's the only day after Monday to Friday work that they have to enjoy themselves?
You don't go to weddings every day, sir. You don't go to weddings every day. Besides, if you keep going to wedding at the expense of the time you need to make for your children, don't be surprised. I commiserate with you. Don't be surprised. Yes.
Commiseration?
I do. In advance. Yeah, because the day you start to notice strange things, the time you spend at those weddings, you would have
okay, let's say that someone now has gotten close to the end of the road with their kids. It's not the end of the road. The kids haven't blocked them off.
About getting to it.
I've
reached a point of no return.
well, point of almost no return.
Yeah.
So is there a chance? What can that parent do, even if it is not radical, something that they can?
This is my recommendation. I wish you can let me articulate this. The assumption is that you've come to a realization that I've effed up. I don't goof. So that is step one. You have done 50% of the work. The next thing is to sit down. What do I need to do next? And that question, the answer to that question is, can I reappraise the situation? Can I face the moment of truth with these children? Can I bring them and ask them, guys, I have failed to be the father you wanted. I have not lived up to your expectation.
No grandstanding.
No. I wasn't there for you. I haven't been there for you. I've been chasing money. I've been traveling up and down trying to see I can give you a good life. But now, I have lost all of you. Please, I want to make up. I want to start all over. I know it won't be the same. It won't be like it should have been. But give me this remaining years that we have. Let me make amends. If you sincerely and honestly share this with your children and be ready to build capacity, to gain knowledge, to do what you need to do with the remaining time you have, I'm sure they'll forgive you and then give you the opportunity to prove yourself again. Children actually forgive when they see parents who are sincerely, who are rather genuine about their repentance. Their repentance, that's the word.
We have to go right now, but Kingfisher asked this last question. Kingfisher, this is your last question.
This Kingfisher guy
says, what happens when irresponsible social media parents, because they exist, are raising kids with obviously poor standards and values, especially with the proliferation of such parents and them even becoming the majority?
The first thing to do is isolate your children from those kind of people. Until they are able to embrace sense.
I think that is the summary.
Isolate your children from those people. Parents and children, until they are able to come to their senses. I know where
I think let's just keep it there. Kingfisher, isolate. Thank you so much. I want to believe that this has been useful for someone and will be useful for those others who will watch it on YouTube. Thank you so much for your time this morning. Kingsley Obum-Ebulem is a parenting and teens counselor. We've been talking about father-daughter bonding. And that's the show today. Thank you again for the privilege of always being a part of your Saturday morning. I'm Ayo Makinde. Do have a wonderful rest of your weekend, and bye for now.